Hi, I'm Nomalanga Mhlauli-Moses with HealthyBlackWoman.com, and this is Shaquita Graham with LovingTheBlackMan.com and Ateco.com. How are you doing today, Shaquita?
I'm doing okay, Noma. Just coming out of a heated discussion with my good friend here.
Okay, so the topic at hand is an article that I actually saw at Madame Noir, which talked about the black community making excuses for black men, especially men like Johnnie Cochran. The actual title is Johnnie Cochran and the Excuses Made in Defense of Black Men. And in this article, the blogger or the writer, her name is Veronica Wells, talks about Johnnie Cochran and this show, The People versus O.J. Simpson, which is on every Tuesday night. I happen to watch it, and I know you watch it too. And what she says is, she says that Johnnie Cochran actually had another family before the family that we see in the show. In the show, he's a married man. He's an influential and accomplished lawyer. But before that, apparently he had a wife, a black woman. And while he was married to her, he apparently had another woman on the side who was a white woman who had a kid with him, and his name apparently was also Johnny. So then the other thing is that complicates the story is that apparently Johnnie Cochran had a tendency of mistaking his first wife for a punching bag. And when he was asked about it later on, he denied it, but she still told the story. So what the writer here at Madame Noir is kind of saying is that even when the story is being told on OJ, on the TV series, they're kind of glossing over the many flaws that Johnnie Cochran does have, and they're minimizing the things that he did, which is basically he was married to one woman and had a whole nother family going, and then he was a domestic violence perpetrator. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, the question being, do we, what is it? Do we defend black men or something? Listen, I think what we do too much is we defend white men and white women like Hillary and Bill Clinton. And we throw people who are champions for our community under the bus like Johnnie Cochran. Johnnie Cochran, again, I look at things from the perspective of the collective of the black community. And Johnnie Cochran was a champion for African Americans. He said, he was quoted as saying that the clients I've cared about the most are the no-J's, the ones who nobody knows. He proudly displayed copies in his office of the multi-million-dollar checks he won for ordinary citizens who were abused by the police back in the 90s. People in New York and Los Angeles, especially mothers in the African American community, like this young woman might be, who are more afraid of the police injuring or killing their children than they are mothers on the corner. Now, somebody can drag out Johnnie Cochran's past relationship or his affairs and all of that, but yet they can go out and vote for Hillary Clinton, who to me is the most heinous individual you can think of when it comes to hurting people and wicked ways and doing evil and harm. So, no, I don't think we just defend black men and overlook things to no avail. I think we point out too much. You'll be hard-pressed to find a white person to speak out against Abraham Lincoln or Thomas Jefferson or Ben Franklin. They'll slit your throat before they say something evil about them, as cruel and maniacal as they were.
Let's unfold this or unpack this, okay? So the first thing is she's talking about Johnnie Cochran's first marriage. So he was married to this woman, and apparently he then had an ongoing relationship for 28 years with this other white woman. Here's the thing. We don't know the nature of his relationship with his wife. For all we know, that was their arrangement. You know, one of the things that I often say about people who tend to be in the limelight is they lead lives that are not the same as ours. And honestly, a woman married to a high-flying lawyer and so forth, we don't know what their arrangement was, because even after he divorced her, apparently he still took care of her, gave her a house and paid for things and so on. So again, I haven't been married that long, just 11 years. But in that time, I've come to realize, looking at my marriage, looking at other people's marriages, that marriage is something that's complicated, has many layers. And when you're in it, you know what's going on in it and nobody else does. So that's the first thing. The second thing is she says that he physically assaulted the first wife. Now, I actually read through this article at Madame Noir, and what she actually said was, I think he shoved the wife or something like this. Now, again, it's not okay to shove your wife. It's not okay to shove your husband. However, painting him as this ugly monster who beat his wife to a pulp is much different than maybe they had a conflict and something escalated. So I think it's always important. And I know the domestic violence activists absolutely hate it when you say this, but I've never been one to take a man and throw him to the wolves because he lost his temper. It's not okay to hit anybody ever, but I think there's a distinction that you have to make between a man who comes home staggering drunk or even sober and beats the, SH, finish the rest out of his wife, and an isolated incident like what this sounds like it was. Then the other thing is, are we to say that if somebody is doing something for his community, and he has maybe a few taints in his background, that we should ignore the good things that he's doing and then just focus entirely on what he did in the past? I don't think so. I think that if he was serving his community and he was helping people, that stands on its own. If he did the other things and it was resolved or they made peace with it, then so be it. That's what I think. Now, if somebody beat me, now that's a whole nother thing. But hey, I can't speak for his ex-wife, but I don't think that it's fair for this so-called feminist to start saying that we can't support, encourage, or accept that this man was a champion for Black people just because she can dig up stuff, reframe it, and write about it.
I absolutely despise women like the one, or even Black people like the one who wrote this article, because her comments about Johnnie Cochran, to me, again, we have to choose our heroes and we have to protect our heroes. As we rebuild the Black community and a Black nation, we have to have a standard where we protect one another and we don't let people vilify those people who are for us and then prop up those people who are against us. Why in the Black community do so many people try to take a person and with all the wonderful things they do, they want to try to drag out skeletons and give this long parade about every horrible thing that they did, but they cannot see not one flaw in any white person, politician. Johnnie Cochran he stood up against not only the police, but prosecutors and judges. I mean, we're talking about lives of the community and the balance here. I don't care who he slept with. If he's protecting the lives of people in the Black community, then I think that that's a time to be big picture minded. Nobody is perfect. But again, you see white people, they will put a statue, the biggest statue up of somebody who committed genocide against a whole nation and will not raise not one tongue against that person. But we have so many traitors in the Black community that buy into inferiority complex about Black people that anytime they get a chance to point out, oh, look, his nose is crooked. You see the way he said that? I mean, and to say that Johnnie Cochran was to just boil his legal career down to him playing the race card, he was doing something that a lot of lawyers, even today, judges today, shout out to Judge O.U. Stevens, who is against the all-white jury. There are many people that, unlike Judge O.U. Stevens and Johnnie Cochran, are afraid to use that education they got and they got from these colleges and stand up for the Black community in the courtroom, where it counts. Forget what they're doing in the bedroom.
One of the things that I've become aware of, which is why I've never labeled myself as a feminist, is that we have to look at the way this country is structured, okay? The most powerful people in this country are white males, okay? And as I understand it, this whole feminist movement was about white women trying to get some of that power. So what confuses me when you hear about a black feminist attacking a black man when he's not the most powerful or the richest or he's not the person that is oppressing, abusing, or doing anything in the sense of what feminism was about. That confuses me. So anytime I start to read something about from someone who identifies themselves as a feminist or a black feminist and then goes on and attacks a black male, I already can't sign on to listen to the rest of the message because it really doesn't make sense right from the beginning. Now, in this young woman's defense, I was reading it and she was saying that she was in elementary school in the 90s or something like that. So we have to kind of say, well, maybe she's young and...
No, I don't.
You don't agree. Not to say that... I think I've already told you I'm attending to a baby here as well. Not to say that a 25-year-old can't make a sophisticated argument or a reasonable argument or whatever, but I think that, when I look back on my life, when I was 25, I thought I knew everything. 10, 15 years later, I think that having had more experiences and more exposure to more things has taught me that there's more than what I thought. I even at one point was kind of leaning towards that kind of feminist message and girl power and this and that. But I've since learned that you can stand up for women's empowerment, choices, being liberated and what have you. But one of the reasons why I like Pastor T.D. Jakes is he says that the empowering of black women does not have to come at the expense of putting down black men. He said it in many different ways. So this is just, I feel like a young woman who's misguided. I shared this article on my wall on Facebook, and I was like, you know what? I think that this young woman is misguided in her view that she has to tear down a black man in order for a black woman to kind of feel empowered or liberated. And that's my stance.
Sure. I mean, and just to wrap it up, because this could go on for a long time too. The bottom line is people like her are a part of a system. And the more we have people feeding that system, the harder our fight is going to be to replace that system. And that's why it's so horrible to see our young black minds being used in that way. I just think that the bottom line is, as black women and black men, we need each other. And we have to find a way to work through our differences. And I think that as a black woman, it would be foolish of me to throw out my protection to the slaughter. Because the bottom line, if there's anybody going to protect you, it's going to be a black man. And when you look at who the black man is in stature, who God made them to be, that's the best protector you can have. So if it's in your best interest to build that up, that is one of the assets that we have in our community that we need to utilize. And the same for the black man. I mean, again, although we have our faults, we shouldn't let it divide us to the point where we can't come together and build. And that's the only thing I'm thinking about on a big picture level, because on a big picture level, we are being, many people call it a genocide slide. We're being genocided. So I don't care who's sleeping with who. I care about replacing a system that is a threat to my sons, to my husband, and to our survival.
Right. So to answer the question is, does the black community make excuses for men like Johnnie Cochran? I think we're both saying no, it doesn't make excuses. I think that people like you and I focused on what the main thing is, keep the main thing the main thing. Any person that you put in the limelight, I think every president that's ever ran for president, we didn't know that they used drugs and had a drunken driving record or whatever it is up until they ran for president. My point is that everybody who goes into that limelight or that spotlight and tries to do something powerful, there's always going to be something that comes up about them that people will try to use to distract from what they're doing, which is, again, the main thing. The main thing is the main thing. So, obviously Johnnie Cochran is not immune to this. And I was just thinking the other day, because of this O.J. Simpson show, just maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, there was a new story about a new knife being found. That was related to this trial. So again, my point is, as the story unravels, or at least some version of that story unravels, we can't be surprised when many people jump in for their 15 minutes of fame to say something about whoever it seems at that point is the one who's being portrayed as somebody who's powerful and made a difference or did something good. That just kind of comes with the territory, I think. But anyway, go ahead. One last thought. I just want to say peace and love to my ancestor and my hero, Johnnie Cochran. And that OJ TV series to me is a complete farce. I just want to throw that in there. It's TV, okay? It's entertaining, TV. Right? It's TV. So to our audience, this is of course another segment of Your Black Women, where Black women keep it real. I'm Nomalanga Mhlauli-Moses with HealthyBlackWoman.com, and this is my good friend Shaquita Graham with LovingTheBlackMan.com and Ateco.com. And I just want to say thank you to Shaquita, and thank you guys for watching.
Thank you.